Badoom. Badoom.
Hey, badoom.
Badoom. Bah.
Badoomba. Oh, it's got some drums going
We
on.
made it, man. Oh my gosh.
We did
Hey,
it, guys.
we did it.
Did you do it?
I
Yes, you
can't even
did.
believe I did it. Did I do it?
I think you did it, Joe.
I did it, man.
Welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday. You made it. This is generally our favorite part of the week. We love coming here and being with you guys. We love just doing the show and now offering ourselves up some time to be a friend, help you guys in whatever you guys are going through. If you have a willingness to share and open up, this is a safe place, so you don't have to worry about getting attacked, or, whatever. But if you want to be anonymous, you can always be anonymous. Go to don'tworrywednesday.com and submit a topic there. Don'tworrywednesday.com. And yeah, just tell it that you're human. And the password of the show is DWW, all caps.
Yeah.
So
it's right here, actually. I'll just
you're gonna do perfect. Thank you.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna do the do. You ready? There.
Yep.
I did the do.
Oh man, there it is. He did the do, but he didn't do the do. He didn't do the do like Mountain Dew. He just did the do.
I did the do. There's another. Now I did it twice, so I did the do.
Oh wow, that's great. Go.
Yeah, man.
You bought a car, Sawale? That's awesome. What kind of car did you buy? I don't know why I asked that. I have no idea. You could say anything. I'll be just like, cool, that's a car. And you're like, no, it's actually a truck. I won't know the difference. Okay, that's not true. I'll know the difference if you say like Ford F-150 or if you say Toyota Camry. Something like a couple of cars I know, but most of them I don't. Maybe Joe will know.
What about cars?
Oh, Sally bought a car, and I asked him what kind of car he bought.
Oh. It's a little
RX-7. 87 RX-7.
87 RX-7. So 1987. That's like a classic.
Oh. Wow.
It's older than both of us.
No. Well, okay. I'll give you that it's older than both of us, but you were still 29.
I was 29 at the time it came out, yeah.
Yeah. That's right. I think it works that way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Go, I agree, Wolfrix. They certainly do. That's kind of how I think about them. Yeah. Yeah. Hugs for everybody. Love you guys. You guys are all awesome. Thank you for being here on the show with us. And yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
Let's get into it, actually.
How are you guys doing? How are you doing, Joe?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I've been sitting here working on mastering like all day.
Wow. All day? Well, I heard, is it the one that you sent me?
Yeah, the one I sent you. And I sent it to you before I listened to it because I wanted to listen to it. And it was easier for me to send it through Discord than to wait for our server to sync. So I was like, I'm just going to send this to Ryan because I got to go, like, I got to do this. I got to, like, take a shower and then get ready for No Worry Wednesday and everything. And so I was like, okay, like, so I sent it to you. And then, like, right as soon as I sent it, then I'm like, okay, now I can download it and I can listen to it. And I listened to it. And I was like, heavy on the low end. Dang it.
Oh, I think I didn't hear anything wrong with it. I think it sounds awesome because everything's clear and it's present in the sense that it's like vibrant. So I thought you did a great job. But
I listened to it. I listened to it on very trebly headphones, and the kick was so overpowering it was uncomfortable.
Oh, well, fair enough. I guess that would make sense.
So I was like, what the heck, man? I'm a terrible producer, apparently. But I'm getting better.
You're great. Sounds great. Heavy on the low end, that sounds like a good thing. Yes, most people love the low end. They're like, yeah, just the reason, like, there's an industry for just making the low end even louder, right? Like, most headphones you buy are just like Might be on the low end. You know, he got that extra bass for you that
Right.
you love to hear.
But these headphones are like really normally very trebly,
Yeah.
which was a problem. And I was like, and then I listened to it and I listened to another song and I was like, yeah, it needs to be fixed. Oh, well,
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's the way it goes.
yep, it does. That's, hey,
That's why they say listen to it on a couple of different devices. I usually
mm-hmm.
don't follow that rule. Oh well. At some point after I'm done mastering it, I'm just like, you know what? Sounds good enough to me. If someone has any critiques, awesome. Tell me about them. I don't mind. Maybe I'll do that on the next one, but for now, this is done.
your
I
your
just send
your
it out.
speakers may explode
Oh wow.
with that first kick. It'll just be like, it'll break.
I'd love to see that. That's awesome. Nice. That actually sounds like I could actually visualize it just going, it's like crumbling into pieces.
Yep, it would fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Yeah.
you'd have to buy new speakers, and then you try and listen to it again. Actually, you wouldn't, because you'd be like, "That last time I did that, it broke my speakers. I'm not gonna do that again." Holy cow!
You turn people's speakers into one of those devices that literally shakes themselves to death.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, um, awesome. Seems like you guys are doing relatively well out there. Despite pouring rain, it's a great day. That's awesome. And yeah, it's good to see you too, Mom. Hi. My mom's in the chat. And yeah. So what do you say we get started on a topic?
Hey, that sounds like
Um,
a great idea. Did you do the disclaimers?
okay.
Did you do the
Okay,
legal
guys,
do?
we don't need disclaimers. We don't need any disclaimers. They know we're professional psychologists and psychiatrists, and anything we say they need to do. Okay. Disclaimer though, we aren't professional psychologists, psychiatrists, police officers, rainbow artists, or magnifying glasses, or any other subset of any of those things.
We're not a
We are
substitute for any of that
specifically,
either.
yeah, we aren't a substitute for any therapy or therapeutical massage or anything other than we are a substitute for one thing, and that is any other podcast. Ours is better. So
So yeah,
so
listen.
yeah. Uh okay, I can't say that with complete knowledge of that truth. I'm sure there are a lot of awesome podcasts out there. And we aren't a substitute for all of them either, because we don't
We're not
talk
a.
about the mysteries of the known universe, and we don't talk about how the aliens do whatever they do. We are strictly on the show to talk about whatever issues you guys are dealing with and
Mm-hmm.
that we might be able to help with. Just kind of to walk alongside you as a friend and help you along that journey the best that we can. We aren't professionals, again, but we can give you our best
Mm-hmm.
from our own lived experiences, which may or may not apply to you. And we recognize that. So if you're ever feeling like, hey, maybe I need a professional therapist, yeah, absolutely, go for it. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's definitely what we would recommend as well. Um, yeah, don't count those guys out because they can be really helpful as
Mm-hmm.
long as you get the right ones. And I
That's
know that
right.
that's a scary struggle, but
Yeah, there are some
worst
bad ones
case
out there.
scenario,
Sometimes you
you
get.
lose some
Most
money.
of the time, I think you probably get a pretty good one. You know.
Yeah, most people in that industry are in it because they care about people.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a few bad ones, but generally speaking, there aren't very many because if you want to be bad, you can go elsewhere and get more money, I think, generally speaking.
Probably.
But who knows? Um, but yeah. So all that out of the way, let's get started on our first topic here. Let's see
Let's do it.
here. We have a couple of them, and I'm looking at chat. Who's in here? Hey, Riku. Nice to see you.
Yes, we
Um,
got some we
and
got
sister.
awesome people in the chat. Sister Frisk, Kawaii,
Yeah, Kawaii.
Wolfrix,
Oh, you're here too.
Nyansai, Cats, Riku, Saule. Who else we got in here? Kendra was here and she had to go to
Yeah,
choir.
Kendra.
If I
Yeah.
Oh, August, I see August's name in there.
August. Hey.
Yep. Connie. You
Uh-huh.
already said.
That's my
You
mom.
already said. You already said hi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, Connie. Who's cats?
All
Out
right.
cats. Sorry, out cats.
Well, you know what? Let's do this. This one I know is relative to release. Wow, that is a
Relatively.
word.
Relatively.
Release. Okay, let's start with this one. I know it's relatively recent, but hey, we do those. This is from October 18th, so last week. Yep. I had to confirm my math on that. I'm like, that's not right, and then I realized my day is one day ahead, so it's not going to be -7. It's going to be -8 for me. So yeah. Um, this was given to us last week, and it is titled "Being Okay with Being Vulnerable."
Mm.
Being okay with being vulnerable.
Hmm.
We have another one that's
I should get
urgent,
it.
but we'll do that one maybe later.
I should get. Well, yeah. The other urgent ones are from Yotsua, and Yotsua is
Isn't
not able
here.
to be here because of college.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And then all of them that we got last week have no names attached to them. And I wonder why that is.
Because they're
In fact,
anonymous.
the last, I think the last like 5 topics we've received have had no names attached to them. And I'm starting to wonder if they're just coincidental or if that function isn't working correctly. But they all do say no preference for whether they're attending or not. So I'm assuming they're just intending to be anonymous, which is great.
Hmm.
Um,
That'd be my assumption too, and
yeah,
probably until we see
learn
otherwise.
otherwise,
Yeah,
continue
we'll
assuming
just
so.
keep it
Yeah, I
anonymous.
agree.
We'll just keep their anonymity, anonymousness.
Mm-hmm.
That.
All right. Okay. I am ready to do this topic. You let me
All
know
right.
whenever you're ready
I will
and we
put it
can
up
get
on the
going.
screen, and you can read it aloud. So there you go. Now it's there.
Awesome. This is from Anonymous. It reads, "How can I be okay with being vulnerable? I worry about representing myself in the wrong way. I feel like I don't know
Wait,
myself
what?
enough."
Wait.
What? Wait.
You said you want to do the urgent one.
You want to do the urgent one? We'll do the urgent one. Let me do that one then. You
I
already
put
have
the
pulled up on the
urgent
screen. We'll
one
do
up
that one
there.
first.
I put the urgent one
Okay.
up there.
So whoever
This
did
is
the
bad
other
for me.
one, we'll do this one first, and we'll come back to the other one. How about that?
I'm sorry.
It's
Did
all
I
good.
miss something? Like,
It's all good. We'll do the urgent one. Is
all
it
right.
bad to be an introvert and rarely go out? Um, is the title of this one, and also how this one begins. Um, they continue. I have a younger relative, and they have been pointing out my flaws, being an introvert. And I rarely go out because I'm in my 20s, the age that I should be communicating to others properly. But no, I'm not a chatter, and I might say something bad if I keep chatting. Just because they have oh so many friends and have been in so many places, they have the right to judge me, being an introvert and not frequently going out like them.
Mm,
So, this one's a bit of an odd read, and I think maybe some of it might be sarcastic, but I'm not sure.
mm-hmm.
Regardless,
Sounded a little
the
sarcastic.
sarcasm there or not, um, the points are the same. Basically, they're an introvert and they're rarely going out. They're being, to some degree, called out on or told that those are flaws, and they're wondering what they should do about this,
Mm-hmm.
and how they should feel about this in a way. Because you're asking, is it bad being an introvert and to rarely go out because of that? You're kind of asking for, in a way, you're strangely enough, in a way, you're asking us how you should feel about this
Mm-hmm.
because um,
Well, that's the first
depending on if
question.
we
Is it
said,
bad being an introvert and rarely go out? Is it bad?
yeah, yeah, is it bad? So I guess the first question is like, if we say, yeah, it's bad, are you going to then be like, okay, then I need to fix this? And if we say, no, that's fine, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, I don't need to change anything. I mean, that leaves a lot up to us. I, I'm okay with that, but I want you to recognize that Um, I would rather prefer, on my case, at least when I begin speaking, to spend the time trying to build you up so that you have full confidence in what you think is right and wrong. Whether you think it's bad or good, or just neither here nor there, whether it's bad or good. Um, I think I would spend some time contemplating that because you're smart enough for sure, and it's a better skill than just listening to us and deciding I'll go with whatever these guys say. Um, but I mean, obviously we have our ideas and thoughts about this, so we're gonna say them. But
Mm-hmm.
I I respect you enough to, even though you're anonymous, I might not know you. I respect you enough to think like your opinion on this matters, especially because it's about you and your life and how you're gonna live your life and your lifestyle. So I think it's a great question. So yeah, I'm gonna get out of the way. I'm gonna let Joe handle this,
Mm.
and I'm
You're gonna let
excited to
me
see what he's
handle
got
it,
to say.
huh? I'm gonna
Yeah,
manhandle it.
yeah.
Yeesh.
Joe's an introvert, so I am an introvert as well. So we probably have some good uh what's the word? We can resonate with each other,
Mm-hmm.
both of us and you. And so I'm happy to hear that because
Mm-hmm.
that's good. To be relatable is really helpful, especially when something is like this going on. So yeah. Take it away,
Sure.
Joe.
I will take it away. I'll take it away, and I will say they're saying you should. Let's say because you're in your 20s, the age that you should be communicating to others properly. And I will start with this: don't let people shit on you.
That's right.
Don't let people shit on you. Cause like seriously, like what, like they aren't you. They have an opinion. They're a younger relative. They are. It sounds to me like they're probably extroverted. They probably heard some advice from somewhere, or maybe this is just how they like to be. Is they're social, very love to be around people. They're extroverted, all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, like that's fine, but no, like it's okay to rarely go out. I mean, I go out when I have to. I mean, I got a lot to do. Most like all my work now is basically at my computer. So,
Mm.
I'm at my computer to work most of the time, right? And I work from home and I enjoy that, right? So I can keep myself busy, I can be productive, I can do stuff and I don't have to go out. And I go out when I need stuff, so I need to go to the store, right? And I go out to go to mass because I'm a Catholic. And so I go to mass. And I go to confession, right? But it's so funny because like if they're talking about being social and doing all this kind of stuff and being able to communicate properly and all, who says you can't communicate from home? We have all these online tools. Remember, it's so weird because it was only just a couple years ago that this ended, but we just had this thing called a pandemic where we were all stuck inside our houses and we had to rely on online communication and we got by, right? It was fine.
Mhm.
And so, like, I have friends that are online and I get on, voice calls with them or video calls with them or just I'm messaging back and forth with them or whatever, right? And so I'm definitely still social. I have friends and I talk to them and, but I very rarely go out. I'll probably go out. Let's see. I don't know. I go out to pick up my kids for parenting time. I go out to my kids' sports events and band events and choir events and stuff like that. So I go to my kids' school stuff, but it's like when I go out, I'm not going out to necessarily socialize. I'm going out for a reason. Like I need to either get something, I need to go to do something or whatever. And like it's so funny because I go to church, but church isn't a social time for me. Church is like prayer time. And so I go and I don't talk to anybody.
Right.
except for when they say, okay, the sign of
No.
peace or whatever, right? And
Yeah, peace.
I'll look around and I'll mouth the words "peace be with you" to like 3 people. That's the extent of my socializing, right? But I'm not going out there to necessarily get to know people. Now, here's the thing, like I have enough friends online, like I said, and I work with people where, at Black Static and Swerve, I don't think we've ever gotten all 7 of us together at one time.
Mm,
Have we?
no. Nope.
Yeah,
We've gotten 6, never 7.
6. Is that the most we've ever gotten?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Was that our first meeting? No, because we
Yeah,
only
that
had
was
5 then.
basically.
We started the
Oh.
company with 5 people.
No. We ate at some restaurant that closed down. What was that one?
When we founded the company?
What was that when we founded the company?
Yeah, it closed
I
down
thought
at
everyone was there.
Little Chef in Mount Pleasant.
Yeah,
Everyone
little
was there,
chef.
but there were only 5 people. That was when the whole
Oh,
company
right.
was together, but the whole company consisted of 5 people instead of 7 now, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yep. But we
Yeah. So
have
we've only ever
meetings.
gotten 5 people together, and that's happened a couple of times, but like literally less than a handful.
Mhm.
Less than 5. It's like probably 3 times that we've gotten even 5 people together.
Yep.
That's
But now we live all over the world, right? I mean, a handful of us
Mhm.
live in Michigan, one of us is in North Carolina, one of us is in Australia. And so it's like,
Mhm.
but we still meet on a regular basis, right? We just meet online. And, we keep talking about, hey, we should do this company trip. And it's like, great, we should. We need some money.
Yeah.
It would be great. Um, but anyway, so no, I would say, anonymous, that it's not a problem at all. And I would say don't let people shit on you, because they probably just don't understand. Now, it's okay. You don't have to get mad. You don't have to like throw it back in their face. You don't have to tell them they're stupid. You don't have to throw a rock at them or whatever. Like, you can just say, okay, nod and smile and go on your way. And you don't have to necessarily regard that. Now, here's the thing. It's okay to go and be social. I used to go to events with lots and lots of people all the time. And I used to talk to people, and I used to be social with people and all that kind of stuff. And I had different jobs where I had to go. And when I'm there, I learned enough about people's skills and everything to be a good person to be around and all this kind of stuff. And I can be friendly and nice and everything like that, and open and talkative and social. And that's fine. But I'm not necessarily going out, just to go out and have fun. And it sounds to me like the premise of this topic is basically going out and meeting people, or going out and, doing stuff like going out to the bar, or going out to, the movies, or going out. See, the problem in my world is that all those things cost money, and I don't have a whole lot of that. And so that's all right, right? Like,
Hmm.
I don't need to spend extra money going to the movies or going to the bar or whatever. Every once in a while it's nice to go out to eat, but even then, it's I don't know, most of my time is spent at home, and I think that's totally okay. I will say we are social creatures. Human beings are social creatures, so to have human interaction is a good thing. So if you are finding yourself in isolation and you find yourself maybe getting somewhat depressed or whatever, then maybe you might need to have some kind of communication. But it doesn't have to necessarily be in person. It could just be online or on a call or whatever, But hey, there's a time and a place for everything, right?
Hmm.
But here's the thing: social events wear me out. When I
Oh
get
yeah.
around big groups of people, I get tired pretty quick. An extrovert is energized by that type of activity, and that's great for them. I'm happy for them. And I'm just like, "Hey, go be social. Go be around a bunch of people. Energize yourself." I'm gonna go be by myself.
Mm.
You know? So anyway, I guess I don't have a whole lot to say except that no, it's totally, totally fine. And you're totally okay being who you are. And it's okay to be an introvert. So I don't know.
Mm.
That's all I have to say about it, at least at this point. So I'm gonna turn it over to Ryan and see what he's got
Yeah.
to say. So Ryan, it's all yours, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I have a lot to say, and a lot of it kind of rides off the shoulders of what Joe was saying.
Hmm.
You
Don't let
know,
people shit on you.
yeah, don't let people shit on you. Here's the thing. You're saying this person. By the way, I would, if you're not, if you haven't, read what is being said in the chat. I'm gonna read real quick. One of them I really liked here is from August Stars. He said, "I'd say it depends on what perspective you have. Physical health, mental health, comfort. All three most definitely benefit from going out here and there. Maybe don't focus on number, but quality." And
Mm, mm-hmm.
I can agree with that. I think going outside of your comfort zone is crucial to developing well in your physical health, your mental health, and your comfort. A lot of things require you to go outside your comfort zone. Um, but it doesn't mean but what's important about that is the quality of going outside of your comfort zone, not necessarily the quantity. Though quantity does count for something. I'll say this in addition to that. Um, that doesn't mean my point of view is that you should be going out.
Mm,
Just that it's okay to get outside your comfort zone, and sometimes it's very beneficial to get outside your comfort zone. As a reserved person myself, I also like, fancy just kind of not going out. But I recognize there is good in it, and
mm-hmm.
so it's okay to go out. Um, you said that your younger relative is kind of um, beating on you, no, like, well, they're pointing out all your flaws, being associated with being an introvert. Well, here's the thing. I remember when I first kind of discovered introvert and extrovert, and I started recognizing the flaws of each. And let me tell you, there are a heck of a lot of flaws for being an extrovert,
Mm.
and they stand out to me because they're extroverted flaws. They're like impactful. They have to do with everybody around them, and they're explosive.
Well, and you're an introvert,
And
so it's weird to you
and I'm
too.
an introvert. So, and then I'll tell you what, there's also a heck of a lot of flaws for being an introvert.
Yep, you bet.
But they're not explosive, but they sure damage everything around them in a subtle way that brings everything down. In a quiet, even more like sinister way without recognizing what's going on because it's all interior. Here's the thing. Both of them have flaws. And just because you're introvert doesn't mean you're worse or better. It just means you're different, right? But here's another thing that's even more important than that. The flaws are not your personality.
Mm,
I have watched people, including myself, I have watched Joe, I have watched my brother, I have watched many people who have who are introverted,
mm-hmm.
have introverted problems, and work to learn to overcome those problems so they're not dragging themselves down
Mm, mm-hmm.
with like, for example, my brother is a melancholy. He's an introvert and he's task oriented,
Mm-hmm.
right? One of the problems with that field is you don't get stuff done. You just notice everything.
Mm.
That's wrong. And my brother learned to pick up a sort of charismatic um, tick to him where he's like gets into let's get stuff done mode.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not part of his personality, but he adopted it into his nature by practicing it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it is part of his personality. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't weigh him down being task oriented and people oriented and just kind of like melancholic, right? He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't let that stop him from doing things. it does take him longer to do things because he calculates everything out, but at least he does things.
Mhm.
He's a problem solver, not just a problem noticer. Problem noticer.
Mhm.
Also, same story, same person, except for he. Another problem with being melancholic is you're not very good with dealing with people because you kind of don't care what people think. You just say the truth, and that's. I mean, it's the truth. If they're offended, that's who cares, you know.
Well, you
And
say the truth.
it can be like that sometimes.
A lot of times in that realm, you say the truth according to logic without
Right.
accounting for
Without
emotion.
right, right. And I've watched him grow in this
Mhm.
and overcome a lot. Like, he'll actually smile at people
Mhm.
and laugh at people's jokes,
Mhm.
like, not just out of pity, but, like, genuinely. Like, I've seen him grow so much in this category because it's not a part of his personality. His personality type came with a bunch of flaws, and he worked them out. And so my point of saying this is, sure, your younger relative or anybody around you might be able to point out some flaws with being introverted. And sure, you could go back at them and point out all the flaws of being extroverted. But what I would recommend and encourage you to do is take those flaws and figure out how to solve them. And don't just attach yourself to them and say, oh, this is just who I am. Because then you have to
Mm.
live with that flaw.
Mhm.
But you literally don't have to. You can recognize something that could be better and make it better. Now, that doesn't mean that you will go from being an introvert into becoming an extrovert. It just means that you'll be able to handle yourself in more situations better.
Mhm.
And um, a, a great sort of example of that is I, like Joe, do not like to socialize in big groups that much. I like deep, intimate conversations with one on one,
Mhm.
or maybe one,
Small
like
group.
maybe the three people, small groups,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I love that. Just it brings me fire and fuel to have those deep, intimate conversations. But if I get around a group of people and they're just talking like they're just socializing, they're talking about nothing that matters to me, right? It matters to them, I guess, but it's just surface level stuff. It wears me out so fast that like basically like Christmas will come and only a quarter of the day will have happened and I'm like I'm ready for bed. Just put me out. I am so exhausted.
Mm.
I've had like 5 conversations with people. Let me go to sleep. And it's like, Why?" Well, because I'm an introvert, I I am charged in certain ways. Like I have a battery and it's filled with certain events and other events drain it. Certain people that I'm around, like some certain people in my life just drain my battery. And it's not because they're bad people, it's not because I don't love them, it's not because they don't love me back. It's nothing to do with our relationship. It has everything to do with how they are um communicating or how they express themselves. If someone expresses themselves with too much extrovertedness, it just drains my battery.
Mm.
And then if someone comes into frame that's super introverted, they'll just start charging my battery for me.
Mm.
And it's awesome. It's great. Um, my point is that doesn't go away usually just because you start to overcome your problems. But what you will find is that your ability to communicate with people helps stabilize your battery so that doesn't drain as fast. And also, just communicating with people gives you better skills, gives you a better position in life. As someone else was pointing out, a lot of times how successful you are is to some degree a matter of who you meet and who you make friends with. Um, and also, you just find joy in it. You just
Mm.
find a lot of joy in communicating with people once you get good at
Mhm.
it. And that takes practice.
Mhm.
And anyone's capable of practicing.
Sure.
Just find somebody, talk to them, and you'll find yourself eventually coming to enjoy it. And I mean, I've lived both lives of not being good at communicating with people and being good at communicating with people. Or at least, not perfect, but good, I'll say. And the journey for developing that skill was awesome. I loved it. Even if it was challenging, even if it put me outside my bubble, even if it was scary, it was actually quite fun and enjoyable, and definitely worth it because that is a skill I use almost every day of my life and makes my entire life like 800 times easier than everybody else's. I swear. Because most people don't put the time in to learn how to communicate well with people. They just like to communicate whether or not it's good or bad.
Right.
And so learning those skills and recognizing, and that's the beauty of being an introvert, is you're constantly rec- capable of recognizing those things. Extroverted people, they're just going and talking to people, but they don't have the mindset to be like thinking at the same time, is this good or bad?
Mm-hmm.
They can have that. They can. They just have to make that a habit. For introverted people, that's already established and it's constantly going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's draining to communicate with people because that's going on at the same time. You're not able to just be present with them. You're present with yourself, freaking out in here. And that's going on out there. And you're
Mm.
juggling everything in here while that's going on and it's like running into you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so being introverted has its blessings. Count those as blessings and utilize those skills that naturally come with being an introvert. Like, for example, because you're trapped in here as an introverted and you don't care as much about what goes on out there, you can let things go a lot easier
Mm-hmm.
because you're just like, I mean, why would that affect? Like, oh no, something bad happened today. Okay, why would you call that a bad day? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's all in here. It's all in here whether you have a good day or a bad day. To an introvert, that's true. To an
Mm-hmm.
extrovert, that is not true. And so extrovert has to deal with that a completely different way. They
Mm-hmm.
actually have to like get angry and stuff.
Which isn't bad. It's not bad to be
Yeah, which
angry.
isn't bad.
You
But
just
it's
got to
not
use it
bad, but I'm
properly.
just saying. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a blessing to be to be an introvert. It's also a blessing to be an extrovert. And so my whole point is count your blessings and improve where you do have flaws. And I guess to answer your question, is it bad being an introvert and rarely going out? Um, or rather, is it bad to rarely go out because you're an introvert? And my answer to that is no. I mean, it definitely isn't a sin. And could it help you to go out? Possibly. Does that mean you should go out? Possibly. I mean, the question is, what are your goals in life? And does going out help those at all? Like, if you are already good enough with communicating with people, that's not a concern to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you are, you know, like your mind is set on a certain goal, like, hey, I want to be the best pianist of my generation or whatever it is, right? Going out and meeting people doesn't necessarily assist you in those goals, but doesn't mean they're bad experiences because they could be fruitful in other categories of your life. It's kind of like it's it's like it's like anything, really. It's like, should I have this experience or no? And it's like, well, if you have the experience, it could be anything. It's like could be going out and rolling or riding a roller coaster. It could be making a curtain. It could be trying to build your own campfire for the first time. It could be building um a light bulb from scratch, right? All of these things you could do. You could learn to do them. So is it bad that you're not doing them? The answer is like obviously no. It's not bad that you're not learning how to build a light bulb from scratch.
Mm.
It's not bad that you haven't built your own campfire before. And should you be doing those things? Eh, you could do it for the experience and learn from it. Yeah, absolutely. But like it's not necessary to life. And it's a matter of like, what do you want out of life? And does what you're talking about get you there? And sometimes, you know what? You do kind of have to just go on a whim and do something different because that's part of being human and part of living and enjoying life. But
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, so I don't think asking the question is it bad is the right, it's not the wrong question. It's actually a very good question. It's just it's like, geez, it's neither here nor there. It's neither good nor bad. It can be made into good. It
Mm-hmm.
could be made into bad.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a terrible time. You could go out and have your energy drained and also not have a good time and also be around people who are just kind of stinky, like not smell bad, but sure they smell bad, but like they don't treat you well. Like you could be around people that treat you poorly and it degrades your self confidence.
Mm-hmm.
You could be around people that train you to be toxic because they're toxic and you could pick up their bad habits. So like technically speaking, should you go out and and just like go to parties and stuff like that because you're in your 20s and that's what people do because that's healthy? Well, it could like with great argument be very unhealthy because a lot of these parties have a lot of people that don't have good mindsets and that's going to influence you. So it's like, would that be bad? Yeah, that would be bad. So, the context is everything in this. What are you going out to do? Who are you going out to be with? It's like if you don't have anybody out in your life to go be with that you know is going to be healthy for you and help provide an environment that helps you grow, even if it drains your battery, right? If you don't have that, then don't go out.
Mm-hmm.
You kidding me? Don't go out. Don't subject yourself to like a worse life. Like, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But people do that all the time
Yep.
because they're told
We
to and
do.
they're pressured into it.
Mm-hmm.
People are pressured into all sorts of different things without thinking about the consequences. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
might think about the consequences, but they kind of give them up because the pressure's too high.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so you have a lot of context to juggle here. So when you're asking if it's good or bad, I can't answer that for you, but you can because you have context. Ask yourself, like, if I go out, who am I going to see? And are they
Mm-hmm.
going to have a good impact on me? If I go out, is it going to drain my energy so I can't work? Like, even just, like, the next 3 days because it drains my energy so much that I can only refuel by, like, literally just going in the dark and, like, sitting there in the silence or something, right?
Uh-huh.
You have to ask yourself these questions, and and maybe you'll find yourself going, "You know what? I ought to go out for the experience," or, "I ought to go out to learn how to socialize better," or, "I ought to go out because these people I'm gonna be around are good for me."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
that's a
it
that's
could
a
be any
big
number of things.
thing too. Like, who are you
Yeah,
going to be around, right? Like, what kind of
yeah.
people are you going to be around? Because like what Ryan was just talking about, it's like, yeah, absolutely. I can remember a lot of times where I get dragged to an event and it'd be like, oh, it'll be good for you, and it ended up being good. Maybe I didn't want to go at first, and then it's like, oh, but it'll be
Mm,
good. Come on, come with us, whatever. And I had a good time. I can remember other times where I get dragged to an event or whatever, and then there were a whole bunch of people there that made fun of me. And then I'm like, well, well, wasn't that a good time? No, it wasn't a good time. I don't want to ever do that again. Right?
yeah,
Like,
it's
so
awful,
like
man.
the people who are around are definitely going to have an impact, So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no, I was happy you did because I was done. That was
Oh,
my done point, and you took it right from there. I was like,
I did.
"Perfect.
I
Joe
took,
Joe knows what he's
man. It
doing."
was like the mental, thing. We
Yeah.
got we got some
Anyways,
great stuff
that's
in
what
the
I got.
chat too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We got some great stuff in the chat. You guys are awesome. I can tell. It looks like Sister Frisk, you might be a little bit more extroverted. It looks like you have lots of friends, and everything like that. But you definitely care a lot about people. It's awesome.
Mhm.
And Riku talks about being an introvert. It's a facade for having anxiety. And yeah, social anxiety is definitely a real thing, and that anxiety
Oh,
of
yeah.
being around people. And I can definitely relate to that, especially people I don't know, because I don't know for sure if it's going to, if these people are going to be good people or not. I just don't know, right? And so like I'm a little bit anxious about the whole thing, and maybe partly because I've been, I've had those experiences where I've gone to places with a bunch of people I didn't know, and then it didn't go well. And so
Mm-hmm.
I have an anxiety towards that, but part of it is just that, hey, you know what? I don't have a problem with other people most of the time, I I just, hey, you be you, I'll be me, and that's fine. Hey, we're cool, whatever. Just don't do something that makes me upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Depending on what day it is, that could be very little.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Also, I agree with Kawhi. Your age has nothing to do with this. I don't understand
Mm-hmm.
that argument.
Right.
It's
Yes,
like, I
that's
guess,
true.
like, oh, you're at the age where that's normal. That's not a thing because every age it's normal to go out.
Mm-hmm.
That's like literally every age I've ever been. It's like I was
Well,
3. It's like my
yeah,
mom
when
was
we're
taking me out.
younger,
I was going to
we
you
have to
know?
go to school, and like that's a social
Yeah.
environment. There's people everywhere, right? And we have like,
Mhm.
so we go to school and there's people everywhere. And then,
Yeah.
we go to all these different things cuz we have to go to them, a lot of, there's a lot more people who work from home now than it used to be, but it used to be you had to go somewhere to go to work. And there were other people around you all the time. And some of them were great, and some of them were
Mhm.
interesting.
I like that. Some were great, some were very interesting.
Yep. Some were, wow. They were like, hey, it tested me a little bit, but
Yeah,
um
that's great.
but August, I like what you said. If you equate it to stretching, it might be uncomfortable, but it shouldn't cause you pain. That's true. And, it's okay to press the limits of your comfort zone. Riku had
Yeah,
said,
absolutely, you have to.
be open to going, but don't force yourself into discomfort too much. Because, and that can be true. It's okay to push the boundaries of your comfort zone. That's okay. It's okay to make yourself feel a little bit uncomfortable and kind of try something new that you're not used to. That's how we grow, right? We kind of grow
Mm.
through discomfort. We try new stuff. I mean, I can remember the first time, I'll never forget the first time I played Fortnite, and it was uncomfortable for me.
Oh, yeah.
First time I jumped
Yeah,
out of that
absolutely.
bus on Fortnite, and I'm just like, oh man. I've watched people play this on YouTube. Like, now I'm scared. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like,
Sure. That's
but
good.
it's new, right? Anything new can be a little bit uncomfortable, right?
Yeah,
First time I went on
yeah.
a roller coaster, it was uncomfortable for about, the trip up the first hill. And then afterward, it was like adrenaline rush, and it was great, and it was awesome, and like I can't get enough of it, right? Like,
I thought you it's like, yeah, I thought you were gonna be like, and then everything went black. So, um, because some people go
some
black on
people
those
pass
roller
out, right?
coasters. Yeah, that's terrifying. I
Yep.
feel so scared for them because there's like a whole body, their neck and their hands do things that are like, man, they are gonna be so sore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. If you guys haven't seen those videos of people going black while on a roller coaster, wow.
Yep. And they're all just.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that scares me. Feel terrible for him.
Do you go on roller coasters though? You've been on a roller coaster
Oh,
before,
yeah.
haven't you?
I mean, well, I
Yeah.
haven't been on a roller coaster in probably like 20 years, but I really liked them
Mm-hmm.
when I did.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, I like them.
Mm-hmm.
I used
Yes.
to go on the one. It's not really a roller coaster, but the Graviton. I think it was called Gravitron.
Oh yeah, where he's stuck to
That
the wall.
spins around really fast. Yeah, you're stuck to the wall, and eventually the wall, it's like
It
the
raises
gravity
up a little bit.
sideways, so you can stand up. But they're like, don't stand up, don't walk around, just sit there. But
Mm-hmm.
we didn't obey those rules because what's the point of it if you don't?
Right.
And so
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 people
yeah,
end
we
up
got
upside
the
down
teacher.
against the wall, just.
Yeah, 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 that was so cool. Yeah. I actually really love that thing. I would go on it over and over and over and over. My brother would just puke because he's like, I don't know how you're doing that,
The
man. I
spinning
get
around
so
things.
messed up on that thing. I hate that thing. And I'm like, I know you do, dude. It's okay. I'm gonna go and enjoy it. I love it.
I don't mind the spinning arounds one if they're enclosed, so you can't see the world around you spinning.
Oh, yeah, I've only been in enclosed ones. If they were
If it was
not
the ones that
enclosed, that
spin
would
around
be
like the
horrible.
tilt-a-whirl and stuff like that just goes around in circles and
Okay.
yeah, I
Yeah,
get sick, because I can
I
see
believe it.
everything spinning around, right? But like in the gravitron,
Yeah.
you're in this enclosed thing, and so like you're just looking across, and everybody's still. It's like you're standing still, and then you're just stuck to the wall,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's awesome. I like ending that ride upside down because you're like your head you feel yourself like slowly losing gravity and you're just like slowly sliding down but like your head is going towards the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And like cuz you'll lose perspective of what's up and down, but when you're upside down all of a sudden it feels like the gravity's going the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when it slows down. It's cool. It's
Yeah.
just fun.
There's lots of fun stuff to do out there. And here's the
Yeah.
thing, like August said, I enjoy small group and intimate conversation, but one-on-one does intimidate me. I don't know what else to do but give 100% attention, look them in the eyes, and nod while smiling. Yeah, I can
Mm.
understand how one-on-one conversations could be intimidating. And maybe a group is a little bit more comfortable because there's more people to pass the conversation to, you know. But
Mm.
one of the
Who
best
said this,
things
by the
you
way?
can do, August said this,
Oh, okay.
up in the chat there.
Got it. Yeah.
One of the best things you can do in any of those situations is, the better we can get at taking the focus off of ourselves, the better off we're going to be, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
um, and that's
Yeah.
in general, and that's one thing that's a struggle for introverts. That's where that anxiety comes from, that social anxiety, because we're thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about, like how am I going to do in this situation? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to, fit in? And whatever, and we start thinking about all these thoughts about ourselves in that situation,
Mhm.
right? But if we can learn and train ourselves to take the focus off of ourselves and put it on the other people that we're with or the other person that we're with and be genuinely interested in them, right? And
Mhm.
then a lot of that anxiety can just kind of start to melt away and we don't feel quite so self conscious. We can just focus on the other person, focus on, hey, what kind of stuff are they going through? Because I used to play this game with myself when I go out in public, and it really helped me out, because I can get into a black hole of self conscious thinking, as an introvert, and that's something that I have to be on guard against. And so one of the things that I have to train myself to do is like, I'll think about another person or I'll look at another person or whatever, and I'll be like, I wonder what's going on with them in their world, because we all have stuff happening. We all have an existence of stuff happening, right? Whether it's inside, whether it's in our family, whether it's in our friend group, whether it's in our job, whatever, or at school, anything, we've got stuff going on in our lives. And so I'll look at another person or I'll, think about another person. I'll be like, I wonder how their world is. I wonder what their world feels like. And I'll start to think about that, and then what it does is it makes me more apt, if I end up in a conversation with that person, it gives me questions that I can ask that then make us both feel more comfortable.
Mhm.
Because in a conversation, if I'm good at asking questions that are genuine questions, that now some people, they're having a really bad day and they don't want to talk to anybody, and that's fine. They'll just grunt and they'll want you to leave them alone or whatever, right? And that's, hey, whatever, we've all been there. Right? But a lot of us, like Ryan was talking about, we would love to have a conversation, but we just don't know how to start it, or we're scared to start it, or we don't want to look stupid, right? And so we don't. But, if we can look, it can just be simple. Like, man, I'll try and make it funny. Like, hey, it might be cold, but at least it's raining. You know?
Yeah, that's right. I like that one. Hey, it might be cold, but at least it's raining.
Yeah, I
It's
remember
like,
at a
yeah,
construction site one
technically you're
time.
right.
I was at a construction job site once, and it was like -10 degrees out or something in the middle of February, and it was like windy as all heck, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
I live in a very flat area with lots of fields around, and so it just gets really the wind just whips around like crazy, and we were carrying like big boards, and so it was like a sail, right? It's being pushed
Mm-hmm.
around, by the wind. And I remember looking over at one of the construction guys. I was like, "Hey, at least there's a breeze out."
That's perfect.
Yeah, and he laughed. It was fun. But, those are just some little things. If you can notice the world around you, it makes going out a lot more easy. I'll go out. I like this summer I used to talk about going out kayaking.
Mm-hmm.
But I go out kayaking by myself. I still wouldn't talk to anybody, but I
Sure,
went
but you
out.
still went out, which is nice.
So, hey, you know what? If
Nice to get
that's what
away.
it takes, if that's what
Uh,
it takes to shut your, relative up or whatever, be like, "Hey, I went out. I went to the park and went for a walk." You know? Maybe that works. But anyway, I don't think you're bad at all. I don't, like Ryan said. It could be good, it could be bad. We label it good or bad based on our experience. But
mm-hmm.
no, you're not. It's not bad for you to go out rarely as an introvert. Not at all. But it's also good for you to go out as well. These things can all
Mm-hmm.
be good in their time. But
Mm-hmm.
just because your lifestyle doesn't match another person's lifestyle, that doesn't mean anything.
I do
None
have
of our,
one recommendation,
yeah.
just on what you just said.
Mm,
Um, like you said, it's not bad to not go out all the time, but it could be good to go out. But it would be bad to go out all the time.
mm-hmm.
I would not recommend you going out as much as an extrovert wants to go out. I would highly recommend you don't do that.
If you're an extrovert,
If you're an introvert,
oh, if you're an introvert,
if you're an introvert, I would highly recommend you don't go out as much as an extrovert wants to
mm,
go out.
right,
Um,
exactly.
and don't let yourself be dragged along an extrovert's desires to go out
Mm-hmm.
constantly.
Because it'll just drain your batteries, right?
Yeah, you'll
That's
be
the
on low
thing.
battery all the
You
time. You won't
you'll
get anything
be
done.
exhausted. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I love what who said it. I think it was Alfonso, maybe. Somebody.
Alfonso,
It was a ways up here. I don't
rock and
remember
roller
who.
coaster. Yeah, mom. My mom said rock and roller coaster. I
Rock and
love
roller
that
coaster.
ride.
Oh,
So awesome. It's at
cats
Disney World.
cats said they like being in VC with me. I like being in VC with you too. I like being in VC
Aw.
with a bunch of you. You guys are awesome. Oh no, it was Kawhi. Kawhi said 45-minute in-person meeting. Energy bar 0. Like, yeah. That sounds about
Yeah,
right. I
fair.
can relate. So,
Mhm.
anyway, um, yeah, that's all I had. I don't know.
Awesome.
You're
I
fine.
don't have anything.
Anonymous, you're
I
fine.
think that's I think this topic is covered. And I hope that some part of that was helpful and useful. Because you know what? That's what we're here to do. And we are hoping the best for you in your life. So, any of our advice, take it or leave it. We just want the best. And I hope that you can kind of figure out what you need to do for going forward, whether you should be going out or not. Um, so yeah, thank you so much for the topic. We really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to move on to the next topic. We just got one, and they marked it as urgent. They are also anonymous, with no preference of their attendance, but I'm assuming they're here in some shape or form
Some way,
because
shape, or
they
form.
submitted it while we were on the live stream.
Oh,
I went ahead and
you processed it already and
processed
everything.
it.
Oh my gosh, you're
Yeah.
so good. Is that because I was really long-winded?
No, I did it in like 5 seconds because it was so short. So don't worry about it.
Oh, cool. Good job.
Um, so let's just do this one.
All right.
It's titled Inspiration, Criticized, and Ruined.
Ooh.
Inspiration, Criticized, and Ruined. It reads as follows.
Yeah.
Doing
Just
art,
like that.
but can't finish. Sorry, what?
I just put it up on the screen for you.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I didn't wait for that. I should have waited.
No,
Oh
you're
well,
fine.
we're good.
Good. It's up there now.
If you want to read along, feel free to read along. If you don't, close your eyes. Or actually, don't do that if you're driving or anything. You know what? Don't close your eyes. Just listen. Read as follows. Doing art, but can't finish it because someone lectured me on how randomly it spawned the inspiration to draw. Doing art, but can't finish it because someone lectured me on how randomly that it spawned the inspiration to draw.
Mm.
No blink challenge. Oof. No, don't do that, guys. I don't want your eyes to get too dry. Just a little dry. Just a little bit.
It was
Put
really
yourself
short.
outside your comfort zone.
You can't read it anymore. I took it off the screen.
Oh, well, too
You
bad,
can
guys.
blink now.
So yeah, this is interesting and totally relatable. I've definitely been through many times where, I'm inspired to do something, and like this one gets me. I'm sure this one probably relates to most of you guys. It's a funny thing, and it's silly, but it's like you're about to do something, like for example, fold the laundry. Then someone comes in the room and says, "Why haven't you folded the laundry? Fold the laundry." And you're like literally about to put your hands on it. Suddenly, the first thing you want to do is be like, "I am not folding the laundry today."
Exactly.
You want to just be like, "Excuse me, you're telling me what to do right before I'm doing it. Now I'm not gonna do it because you were not nice about it, or you called me out for taking too long, or whatever it is."
Mm-hmm.
Something about them criticized your actions just before you got to it, and now you're just like, "Nah, nah, mate,
Yep.
not
No, I'm not
happening
doing it.
anymore. You do the laundry. I'm
Yep.
done."
And you're phlegmatic,
You
so you
just
will
like
out stubborn anybody.
something just snaps inside of you. It just says, like, "I can't do it." Usually I do it anyways. Usually I'm like, I know that something just snapped inside of me, but that's not a good argument for not doing it. I am going to do it, but only because I recognize that I don't want to do it. And I have control over me. It's like, despite my emotions not wanting to do anymore, I have control. I'll show you self, and then I do it. But so, anyways, this feels so much like that, right? You feel inspired to draw, and then someone lectures you because they're like, "Oh, now you want to draw?" Or like, "Oh, that's so weird that you suddenly want to draw now. Like, what inspired you?" And they're not being nice about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's annoying, and it absolutely just takes the inspiration away.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So let's talk about this. And I relate and I respect this post a lot. So,
I don't
Joe,
know. It sounds
what
to
do you
me
got
like
on
we're
this?
getting a whole bunch of topics tonight about people being disrespectful.
Yeah, it does. Y'all need to learn
Did I
some respect.
did I just say that out loud? Maybe I didn't mean to say that. But but I understand where you're coming from. That yeah, like here I am. I'm doing this thing, right? And then somebody comes and tells me, like, "Oh, now you're doing that," or like, "Oh, you only tend to do that once in a while," or whatever. And then it takes all the wind out of your
Mhm,
sails for sure. Just because someone said
mhm,
some off comment. I've had that happen with relatives. I've had that happen with friends, like
yeah.
all kinds of people in my life that, like just one comment can throw me off track, right? But I've learned a little bit about standing up for myself. It took a while. Took me 29 years
29 years.
at least.
It's a good
Took
thing
me a
you've
bunch
always
of
been 29
therapy
though,
too.
so
Like I had to learn how to stand up for myself because like I had been, for the longest for a lot of my life, I had not stood up for myself. Basically, I had
you were
just
taught
gone along with whatever people told me to do. What's that, Ryan?
you were you were kind of taught don't stand up for yourself in a
Exactly.
roundabout way.
Mhm. Yep. I was basically taught that who I am in my opinion isn't valuable. That's what I was taught. Like, it
Mm.
doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter if we have enough money or not. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Hey, this is what we're doing anyway, and this is what's happening, and your opinion doesn't matter. And so, like, when that gets beaten into your head long enough, you just kind of stop. You just kind of surrender, and you're just like, whatever, right? But I don't know. I've learned a little bit lately about, hey, I can stand up for myself, and that's okay. Like, I can stand up for what I believe is right. And if someone makes some off comment, I can be like, what? Why did you even say that?
I like that response.
what?
I like that response.
What?
Just what? Why did you even say that? Because it's
Right?
the right response. And it's not even like you're not even like you're an idiot. It's just like, why did you say that?
Hmm. Yep. I remember just recently I had this experience where somebody, I was like, I had something planned. Let's see. Oh, I was having parenting time and I was talking. I don't know. I won't mention who it was, but anyway, I was going to meet my ex to pick up something for my son while I was parenting, having my time with the boys, right? But he really wanted this thing that was getting delivered to his mom's house like that night after I picked him up. And so the next morning I coordinated with my ex to go and meet her somewhere and pick it up. And I mentioned it to someone and they were like, "Well, that's kind of out of the way." And I'm like, "Yeah. So, that's how it got planned. That's where we had to do. It's how it worked out. Like, what do you want?" Right?
Sure.
Like, maybe I don't know. I might have been a little bit overheated. I mean, whatever. But anyway, so that's kind of how that was. It was like they just said, "Well, that's a little bit out of the way." And I was like, "Yeah, but like that's how it worked out. That's how it had to be because they were going to be there and so that was the best place where I could meet them and I wanted to get it at early in the day and all this kind of stuff. It just worked out that way.
To
So I'm
clarify,
sorry,
hmm
you
to
know.
clarify, they weren't saying, well, let's let out of the way in a sense of compassion for you and that you're going out of your way to do something. It was more so like criticizing that you would allow something like that to happen.
I don't know. It kind of sounded neutral when it was said, but
Okay.
I immediately jumped on the defensive. Like maybe it was wrong
Fair
of me
enough.
to do, right? But I was just like, look, like, but it was one of those moments where I was like, why, why did you just say that? You know, like, so what? It's out of the way. I'm going to do this, right? Like, whatever. But anyway, it's the same type of thing where it's like, but here's the thing. Have you ever said something that you then regretted saying? Ryan, have you ever
Oh
said
yeah.
something that you regretted saying?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Really? Are you sure?
Okay, maybe not.
You seem pretty perfect.
Okay, guys, fine. I didn't. I just wanted to fit in. No. Yeah, sure. I've absolutely said things that are just like, wow, that was not the right thing to say. I like even like sometimes you recognize it right away, and sometimes you recognize it later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, definitely been there more than
Mm-hmm.
once.
Yeah. I love the chat. I love what you guys are saying. Yeah. Legit. Who do you think you are? Riku Cat says, give him the old, did I ask though? Like, wait, like who asked you to open your mouth and speak? Like,
Oof. Oh my gosh. I think there's a certain amount of respect that's what do you call it? Ignored, I guess. That's not the right word, but certain amount of respect that isn't taken
Hmm.
when you give those kinds of responses. You got to recognize, like, okay, this is a human being, and their thoughts matter, and they are important. They might just be having a bad day.
Yes,
Um,
that's true. But do not forget that you also are a human being and your thoughts and
right.
feelings matter as well. And when somebody says
Absolutely.
something that harms your feelings and messes up your inspiration, messes up your ability to work, whatever like that, like it's okay to let them know. You don't have to be mean about it,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, that's the thing.
Hmm. I
These
think
things
there's a certain
you can
amount.
thank my therapist for preach.
Yeah,
Preach
no,
it.
I think you need to be able to stand up for yourself in a way that's respectful.
Hmm.
So like it's a skill that you learn when you become conscious of the fact that you need to be respectful while you stand up for yourself. Because there are people that stand up for themselves, and in doing so, they end up being a hypocrite
Because
because
they're
they're disrespecting the
yes.
person that was disrespecting them, and they're
Hmm.
calling them out for it. It's like, sure, you're calling them out for it. That's great, but like now you're doing it. So you have to absolutely stand up for yourself because you are so important. Like literally, you are infinitely important. That is not to be understated.
Yep.
You
Well,
need to
because here's
defend.
the
You need to
thing.
defend yourself.
So you, Ryan, you admitted that you've said things that you regretted
Oh
saying.
yeah.
I've
Oh
definitely
yeah.
said a lot of things that I regret saying. You know, people get
Mm.
frustrated with me in DMs because I'll say something, like I'll type something and then I'll regret saying it and then I'll delete it and then they'll get mad at me for deleting it and I'll be like, you should have seen what I wrote. Like,
You would have been even more mad if you saw what I wrote. That's great. Oh my gosh.
yep. But hey, I understand the frustration though, because like it's like you just pinged me and now there's nothing. Like I get it. I'm sorry. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been there before.
I'm
It's like
sorry.
whenever I see that, I'm just like, do I want to say something to them or not? Do I just pretend it didn't happen or do I call them out on it?
Hmm.
And usually, if I'm feeling extra introverted, I'll just let them go because I don't want to have a conversation anyways.
Yeah, yeah, I hear ya.
Yeah.
No, I'm the king at deleting messages and DMs, so I apologize if I've done that to you. Some of
That's
you I
great.
know I have, and I apologize. But
Oh my
anyway,
gosh, yeah. Neon says, I used to do that all the time, except I deleted my whole account.
what?
I believe that. That's awful. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Well, anyway, so here's the thing. Like, I keep saying here's the thing. That's kind of apparently one of my things to say is here's the
Yeah, well,
thing.
here's the thing. That's one of
Well,
your
here's the
things. That's
thing.
okay.
Here's the thing, right? Like, I don't know. So we've all said stuff that we've regretted. We've all said stuff and been like, I wish I could like grab those words as they're like leaving my mouth and like bring them back, right? And maybe that's
Mhm.
a moment that that person had when they said that thing, right? So like what Ryan is saying is definitely true. Like it's okay to stand up for yourself, but it's also okay to be respectful and it's okay to be gracious because it might be
Mm.
one of those moments for them where they say it just off the cuff. They didn't even think about it first and they just said it. And or maybe they were meaning it to be compassionate, but it came out kind of wrong and it got taken wrong. There was a miscommunication somewhere, right?
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, based on a miscommunication, now people are dumping tea in the harbor and we're starting a war, right? Like it's crazy. Like
Yeah, that happened.
so, but I can definitely relate with your frustration, Anonymous, because I've definitely been there before.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry. But yeah, it could have been somebody being malicious. I've dealt with that with people close to me as well, where somebody like they're doing this on purpose in order to discourage me. It's weird. When you grow up as a musician and you are a musician and you decide that that's what you're going to do, sometimes you get those kinds of off the cuff comments by people who care about you, quote unquote care about you.
Mm.
Oh, you're doing that. oh, you're doing that again, or or boy, it sure seems like you don't do that very often, or whatever, whatever, just something they say. But what they're trying to do is discourage you from doing that thing. That's malicious, and I would recommend standing up for yourself and maybe getting in their face a little bit. It's okay.
Mhm.
Right? And
Yeah,
just be and stand in your ground. You don't have to like be violent or mean or whatever. You can just be like, look, don't be disrespectful. I'm not disrespectful to you, but I'm about to be.
Mhm.
You know?
You can be stern and not disrespectful.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's
Absolutely.
okay to
My
be
mom taught me
stern.
that one.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I can imagine. I imagine she's real good at it.
Yeah, she's great at
Mm-hmm.
it. She doesn't give herself credit, but she's good at it.
Mm-hmm. Assertive. Being
Yeah,
assertive is
assertive.
good. Understanding your value as a person. Because, like, when you start to understand how infinitely valuable you are and that you are just as infinitely valuable as another person, and when another person tries to devalue you, it's okay to be assertive with them.
Mhm.
And I love the word stern. And
Mhm.
there are varying degrees of stern.
Yeah, there certainly are.
You don't even need to say anything, and you can be
That's
stern.
that's true. That's true.
You can just shoot them a look, man. You can be like,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Some people are really good at that.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Someone just look at you and you're like, "Whoa."
Yep, it's very true.
They could
But
just read everything on their face. Their emotions, everything they have to say to you,
yep, all in a split
and their
millisecond,
silence.
man.
Yeah, in a millisecond, you're like,
You're like,
"Got it."
message delivered. Like,
Yeah, pretty incredible.
it's true. Yep. Oh, Riku, that's awesome. Just because they don't believe in you doesn't mean you have to lose it. Always believe in yourself. Absolutely. You can definitely believe in yourself. Who, you, Connie? Yeah, you.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom's the best mom. She's awesome.
I mean, my mom's pretty awesome.
Your mom's pretty best too.
Mm-hmm. She's my best mom.
Well, yeah, I guess that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. She's unfortunately also your worst mom under that unfortunate set of logic.
That's kind of true too, right? Like, yeah, because it's the only one I got. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, moving on.
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I've said a whole bunch. Ryan, did you have anything?
Yeah, that's great. Here's what I would recommend in lieu of all of this, right? We can all
Mhm.
relate to um to whether this was malicious or accidental or whatever. Just being kind of ticked off because someone said something at the wrong time
Mhm.
and totally took you away from the thing that you were going to do. Here's what I recommend. Um, Tell yourself that you won't let them control you, and you won't let your current emotions control you either. You're
Mm.
gonna do what's right,
Mhm.
and that's really all you got to tell yourself. You're gonna do what's right, regardless of what anyone said, regardless of what anyone felt, regardless of how much respect was given or not. You're gonna do what's right because you know in that moment you have the opportunity to just drop it. You know that in that moment you have the excuse to get angry, the excuse to just drop your job, whatever you were doing, that's kind of like a job, right? You're
Mhm.
drawing, right? You drop it and you go do something for entertainment, something to forget your problems, right? Whatever it is, you have every excuse to do that now. You have the emotional charge to do that. But instead, you know the right thing to do is literally just to move on and keep doing what you were planning on doing, regardless of what anyone had to say about it. because what you're doing is good. Drawing is a good thing. In fact, drawing is to some degree, a holy thing. It can be an
Mm-hmm.
evil thing too, but it's a beautiful thing, and it should be done. We need art in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't need it, I guess.
Mm,
Technically speaking, it's not like food or water, but I'll tell you what. Art leads to a heck of a lot of happiness and joy.
mm-hmm.
Art leads to a lot of joy, a lot of celebration, a lot of contemplation, a lot of deep thoughts
Mm-hmm.
come from looking at a piece of art. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
movement. Like I know of several people. Now, you might not be interested in Christianity whatsoever, but I know several people that were brought into deep thinking and contemplation in Christianity and theology and but that's like super intensive thought and like a whole study because of one piece of art that they saw. And they saw a piece of art, they were moved by it emotionally, and they're just like, you know what? Something moved within me, and I do not understand that, and I need to learn why. Why was I moved? What is this? What is art? Why is there art in the world? That doesn't even make sense that we should enjoy art. What is the purpose? Art doesn't help us in our evolution. Art doesn't help us. In fact, it distracts us from getting things done if you're considering it from an evolutionary standard. So it's like art is befuddling, but it's powerful and it's moving. So my point is, do the art.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares what someone's random predisposition is to you doing art? Let them live their life.
Mm-hmm.
They can do whatever they want to do with their life. You aren't stepping on them. Don't let yourself be stepped on.
Mm-hmm.
And don't even step on yourself. Because you will. Just don't even step on yourself. Don't get in the way of yourself. Don't let this random emotion that was spawned on by some other dude make you think less of yourself or make you less compelled to do the art, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't let your own emotion step on you. You
A good
just
question
take that
then
emotion.
a good question comes up then, like what we're talking about. Don't let it stop you, but then how do you not? Right?
Mm,
Like, because that's the thing. Like, we have to like somehow go through this in our mind. Like, how do we then have something like this happen? And Connie said in the chat, you can look up respond with, well, that's an interesting concept, and then get back to your art. And I think that's great, right? But that takes a little bit of mental toughness, a little bit of mental discipline that needs to be developed in order to, be rid of the emotion that the comment caused. Does that make sense?
mm.
Because
Yeah, yeah,
like
absolutely.
the emotion then causes us to stop sometimes, right? Because then we're just like,
I, I would I would yeah, I'll let you continue, but I would just kind of think about, are you a person who is logically charged or emotionally charged? Because if you're logically charged, you can logic away the emotion. But if you're emotionally charged, you can emotion away the emotion.
mm,
Keep that tool in your belt for the rest of your life. Because if you are an emotionally charged person, you can fix your emotions with other emotions,
mm-hmm,
which is weird, but I've
yep,
seen it.
yep. I mean, I don't necessarily know the answer. I'm glad you jumped in because like that's absolutely true. You can counter emotion with emotion, right? Like so you can
Hmm.
work through these things, right? One of the things also that I just read, I picked up the Art of Loving book by Eric Fromm again, and I was reading that, and it was talking about being sensitive to yourself. So rather than, like, because somebody says something, it causes an emotion, and then it causes this chain reaction of, an emotional, like, process that then causes us to be paralyzed or stop or whatever, right? And so then we're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So one of the things that he talked about in that is like rather than indulge in that emotion, ask why. Ask, okay, something, okay, I feel off now. Why? What happened? And then say, okay, well, that person made that comment, and now this, and then that, and then like, why do I feel this way? And so then you can kind of get to the bottom of it
Mhm.
by asking some of these questions of why. And maybe it's like,
Mhm.
well, they said that, and then it took all my self belief out of me, and then so because like then it made me think back, it triggered this, like this time when somebody said it was worthless to do it, or what, whatever. There could be anything, and it doesn't even have to necessarily make sense. But then once you kind of can get to the bottom of that and you can start to explain to yourself why you're feeling that way, then it might be a little bit easier to undo it, is what I'm guessing.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah, my personal experience with that is, yeah, absolutely that works. Like that's how I probably go through it every single time,
Mm-hmm.
you
I mean,
know, whenever I'm confronted with something like that.
in
Yeah,
the
it's
heat
hard
of
to
a
do it in the heat of the
moment,
moment when you don't have time to think.
right? When all this stuff happens in the blink of an eye, somebody says something, it causes an emotional response, and then all of a sudden you're paralyzed and you don't understand it, right? How do you get back to it? Well, one of the best things that you can probably do is just pay attention to how you feel, and then ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What made me feel this way? Somebody said some words. Okay, well, those words hurt me. Well, why did those words hurt me? Well, because it reminded me of this and da 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 da, right? And then we can kind of start to explain what caused that chain reaction, because our minds are so complex and move so fast, right? Our hearts and our
Mhm.
minds, we're just, so much happens so quickly. Like, and then we have to kind of just dig back in and be like, okay, well, why did this happen this way? Right? So, because the point is, you want to get back to doing your art. You want to get back to that inspired state, right?
Mhm.
So then, how do I get back to that inspired state? And sometimes working through that emotion, working through that, it might take a little bit longer than you want it to. And it might be frustrating that it stopped you. Yes, all of those could be true, but you can get back on track. It is possible to get back on track. And then you can also, in that, cascade of questions that you ask yourself, another one to ask is, okay, when this happens again, how will I respond? How do I avoid the emotional trap again?
Mhm.
Right? And so you can start to kind of figure out, okay, this is how I operate, this is what I need to do, this is how I need to respond in order to move forward. Um yes.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look for people who will support you. That's a good one.
Mhm.
Someone that is excited to see what you got to share.
I support
That
you.
can be really big inspiration. Yeah.
I love people who do art. It amazes me. It amazes me
Yeah,
when I
amazes
see
me
people
too.
who draw and do all this kind of stuff. It just,
Yeah.
man, partly because I really can't do it well. And so like when I see somebody that can draw and make visual art, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool." You know?
Mhm.
And then I want to
Yeah.
pay them money, but I don't have enough.
Yeah. Nyanse can attest to my just even my verbal awe of like anything. It's like I look at him like, how are you doing that? It's so good
Mhm.
and in so little time.
I
It's
know.
ridiculous. And
It's
it's not like
crazy.
I'm angry. I'm saying it like this because I'm just like it baffles me that it's so amazing.
Mhm.
And I don't know how to express that other than like sounding like I'm almost angry, but it's like I'm in I just like it just like is outstanding, you know? It's just like, what? This is amazing. It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think about that when Ryan makes music too.
Yeah.
Man,
I think about it with
so good.
musicians too. It's awesome. Yeah. Art, I guess all the forms of art are amazing to me. It's incredible. Um,
Hanky and
so yeah, I
surprise.
mean, I hope that that was helpful. And that that this was a good solution. I mean, I have one last thing to say, and that is, it's an answer that maybe we should be saying about everything in life. Um, whether that be a bad scenario or even a good scenario, like just something good happens, we should be telling ourselves, handle this with love.
Mm-hmm.
Because in every situation, like I can't imagine a situation where that's not the good answer. Like, just handle this with love. So whenever you're caught up in the moment and things are going crazy or someone offends you or whatever, you can just be like, you know what? Handle this with love. And then you are going to go into the scenario with a very different mindset and a very different output and a very different outcome than if you didn't say that. So I think handle this with love is a really good like phrase. You should just like not tattoo it to your body, but like maybe tattoo it to your eyelids. Because I think if you live your life saying that to yourself in every moment, you'll live the life that most people dream of. And you'll be the kind of person most people are just absolutely stunned by with your beauty and how you treat people, how you treat issues, how you treat scenarios, how you treat objects, etc. So, yeah, handle this with love.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? You know what? One of the most loving things to do sometimes?
Love yourself. No, I mean, it's super important. It's one of the most loving things you can do.
Hey, it's biblical.
Tattoo your eyelids.
He who he
Okay, well,
who
maybe don't do that. It was a joke.
he who spares the rod hates his child.
Oh, yeah. That's right. It's
Now, this
Asian
might
phrase.
not be your child,
It's from China, right?
but sometimes you got to smack him. That's the loving thing to do.
Yeah, that's true. Tough love is a real thing, and it is effective and good.
Yep.
Not always gentle.
I'm not saying
I
smack
learned that.
him don't like get yourself an assault charge. We are not police officers or attorneys.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Good. Yeah, well said.
So, don't do something that you're going to get like charged with assault and battery or something for, right? But
Mm.
it's okay to stand up for yourself and it's okay to be stern
Mm-hmm.
and you can smack people with words or a look. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, if you ever give me a dirty look, I'm going to be like,
What the heck did that come from? I've
I'll
never
give you a
seen that face
dirtier
before.
look.
Yeah, that's true.
Be like,
I
don't
won't
you be
even
looking at me
contest
like
you on
that.
that.
I'll look
Have a
at you.
great night, August.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday/Thursday as well. Yeah, what do you say we dive into one more?
Yeah, let's
Got
do
time
it.
for it?
We
Maybe.
do.
Okay.
Yes. Which
Thank you
one are
so
we
much
doing
for
now?
this topic. Really appreciate that, Anonymous, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sincerely hope that it was helpful. And if it wasn't, sorry. I was probably helpful to somebody though, so you can at least have some good faith in that. There's probably someone in the chat that got something good out of that, and that's always really the cool thing about doing this live and with you guys is that element of like you never know when a topic's like, you know what, some of the things that were talked about really relate to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's one of the really cool things about this show. But anyhow, thank you so much again for that topic. You're awesome, and we wish you the best. And we wish you the best in your art. Keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see it. If you want to share it, please do. You can send it to my Discord. That's just static P. No dash, no hyphen. So just static P.
Or
Um, but
pleb
yeah,
nub.
pleb nub. Yeah, that's my other one.
No,
No,
that's
actually,
mine.
that's Joe.
Send it to me too. I like getting sent stuff.
Yeah, share. Yeah. All right. Well, let's do this next one, the one that I promised to do in the beginning.
Yeah, let's do it.
Which is titled, How Can I Be Okay? Sorry. Yeah. Being okay with being vulnerable. That's what it's titled.
Gotcha.
It's from Anonymous. And once Joe has it on the screen, I
Yeah,
will read it.
give me just a second.
Yeah, take your time.
I'll get there. No, I can't take my time. We have a limited time on this show. All right.
We have an expiration date, guys. We will go off air.
Okay, it's up there now.
Okay, awesome.
You can do it now.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks, Joe. You're awesome. Thanks for
You're
running
awesome.
all
You're
that stuff.
awesomer.
I didn't do anything. All right.
You want me to
Being
make it
okay with
bigger? Here, I'll
being
make it
vulnerable.
bigger. Watch this.
Tiny text.
Now it's blue. Now it's gonna be bigger.
Oh,
Should make it 18.
yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that looks good.
Oh,
Big text.
big boy
I know how to
text.
work
All right.
Microsoft products. Anyway.
What a flex. All right. Um, so, it reads as follows. How can I be okay with being vulnerable? I worry about representing myself in the wrong way. I feel like I don't know myself enough to be authentically vulnerable, if that makes sense. I am often unsure how to identify my own feelings.
Mm.
Advice from Anonymous. Um, yeah. Thank you for this topic. This is actually a pretty deep topic. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know if we'll have time to cover it in as deep as it could go, but this is absolutely worth covering. There's definitely time and place and importance um, on getting to know yourself better so you can become, I guess, a little bit more confident in when you're thinking about yourself and talking to yourself. And I think a good amount of not knowing yourself comes from not talking to yourself. Like, how do you know someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
You communicate with them, you live with them, you experience them. You know, even if they are mute, you watch them and you see their habits and you see how they operate in the world and what they do and so on and so forth. You get to know someone through your experiences with them. And if you don't experience yourself, or at least maybe you experience yourself, but you don't pay attention to it and you don't notice yourself, you're not a noticer of yourself. Yeah, you might fall into a category of feeling like you can't even represent yourself because you don't even know who you are. And also the topic of, and there's actually other reasons on top of not knowing. Um, so there could be actually there's a lot of reasons. There's certain um, ideologies that lead you down the path of not knowing who you are because you are not allowed to have a certain set of understandings of yourself. So, anyways, there's all sorts of different reasons. Some of them are culturally implanted. Some of them are just how you've operated your life and how you think about yourself, how you think about the world around you, so on and so forth. So there's a lot to talk about there, but also the topic of vulnerability is very important and close to my heart. That's kind of funny because that's intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And vulnerability is required. So both of these topics kind of inlaid in this are very, very crucial to a healthy good life. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really appreciate you asking. I don't know, again, we're not professional psychologists or therapists, and I would recommend one if you find this problem too challenging.
Mm-hmm.
But I respect that, and I not, well, so not respect, but I'm very glad that you bring it up because it gives opportunity. Even if my advice isn't very good, it at least might lead you down the road to finding out how to sort of understand yourself better and how to become vulnerable so that you can obtain the best things in life.
Mm.
Because the best things in life, I guarantee you, the best things in life require you to be vulnerable. That is a statement not to be underestimated.
Are you sure?
That is a statement that is absolutely true. I think the best things in life require some vulnerability or you can't achieve them. Um, unless you, I guess, I mean, obviously, that's not true across the board. There are things in life that you can achieve without being vulnerable, and they're maybe considered some of the best things, like, for example, food and water. But you're technically vulnerable to them because you're literally putting them into your body, and whatever comes out, comes out. Like, you could get sick from them. You have to be willing to take that risk of getting sick by food. So, yeah, I'm just going to stick with it. I think you have to use some amount of vulnerability in life in order to achieve the best things in life, especially
Mm.
those things which are your dreams and goals. But maybe I could be maybe my thoughts could be swayed otherwise. Um
No, I think you're
anyways, either way,
probably right.
I'm
However,
gonna give it up to Joe
okay,
and see what he's got to say.
how how can you be okay with being vulnerable? That is pretty tough. Now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard with you not here to ask a few questions too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mike, I would ask, who are you attempting to be vulnerable with and why?
Mm.
Because not everybody deserves your vulnerability.
Absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that.
Being vulnerable opens you up to risk, right? And I'm not trying to scare you away from being vulnerable, right? Because like this is part of our lives. This is, and to learn how to open up and be vulnerable with another person is important. And I think that, that what Ryan was talking about is absolutely true. A level of intimacy can take place when we are vulnerable, and that is a beautiful thing. But it also opens us up to great pain and heartache.
Yes.
When that vulnerability then gets turned around and shoved back at you, or betrayed in some way or whatever, right? Like there are a million different ways, and it can be really, really scary. So it takes a while now. I've been burned enough times. I used to kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, when I was a younger 29-year-old. I used to just, hey, this is who I am, and I was okay with it and everything like that. And then that gets trampled enough times, and then people wonder why you're suicidal. We just got canceled by YouTube because I said suicidal. I'll say it again.
Oh, you're allowed to say that on YouTube.
Suicidal.
You're allowed to say it on YouTube just as long as they don't hear it.
Oh.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like breaking the law. Never mind.
Right,
Don't.
exactly,
That's
right.
bad
It's
advice.
one of those. It's
Yeah.
one of those buzzwords. It's gonna get flagged. It's like they got that.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so it'd be like your video has been demonetized. It's like it was never monetized in the first place. So demonetize.
Yeah,
Hey, demonetize 0. It's cool, right? Whatever.
Yeah, divide 0 by 0 all you want.
Right. If we were doing this to make money, then we'd have quit a long time ago. But so I'm reading this, and I'm thinking through it because I had to learn these lessons really tough. And what Ryan, I will also reiterate what Ryan said. It might be a good idea. I don't know where you're necessarily at here. I don't know how confusing this is, and I'm not exactly sure why. And I understand not necessarily being able to identify our own feelings, especially sometimes we just feel things and we don't necessarily know how to assign it. Like, I feel this really strong feeling with this other person. Does that mean I'm in love with them? Not necessarily. You might have a close bond with somebody. We get into all these weird things, but there might be an attraction there that, whether it's inordinate or not, who knows, but whatever. We feel all kinds of things as human beings, and we don't always necessarily know how to assign them. And so it might be good to see a therapist if you're having trouble sorting through these to figure out what they are. They might not necessarily be able to tell you exactly, but they'd be able to guide you along a path of discovery, right? And that's what my therapist did for me. Was more than just tell me, okay, you're feeling like this, well, that's this. You're feeling like this, well, that's this. She very rarely said that. It was usually asking questions like, okay, well, what brought that about? And then what were you doing? And then what did that lead you to? And then where did that go? And so it's a journey of discovery of what these feelings are. And then you learn more about your own heart, right? You learn more about how you operate, and you can be like, oh, then when the feeling comes up, you can start to identify it faster and then know how to compartmentalize it within yourself so you know, okay, is this legit? Is this something that's worth pursuing? Is this something that, whatever, right? So, and it all leads to better self-control is what I'm getting at here. And that's a good thing. So, but I would ask you, if you're wondering, I would wonder why you're looking to be vulnerable. Is there a person that you're looking to be vulnerable with? And why is that? Did somebody, maybe you're in a romantic relationship and that person is calling you out because you're not being vulnerable enough with them? I mean, I've seen that happen before too. It's like, either you get vulnerable with me or this is over, and you don't want it to be over or whatever. Hey, I understand. There's all kinds of stuff out there. I don't know if there's some kind of urgency on this or not, but anymore now, after a lot of the stuff that I've experienced, I don't just be vulnerable with everybody. If I've been vulnerable with you, it's because I probably asked you a bunch of questions for a while. And I learned that I could trust you. And I've been wrong. Even in that long process of, opening up and being like, okay, this person is safe. This person is safe for me to be vulnerable with. And I've been dead wrong before. Dead wrong. And you know what happens then? It's like you get stabbed in the heart. And you're paralyzed. You can't do anything for a while except cry. And I can hear all kinds of people in the background probably saying, "Oh, Joe, you're such a sissy." Yep. What do you got to say about it? I'm a black belt sissy.
I'm a sissy that'll beat you up.
But that's the thing. Like, you go through this. Man, I started being vulnerable at a really young age. I got that thrown back in my face, and then I was very depressed at a very young age, and then I always thought I should be honest, and so then people would ask me questions, and I would be honest, and then they would make fun of me for my answers. That's kind of being vulnerable too. Like my high school guidance counselor, when he asked what I wanted to do for a living, and I said I wanted to be a musician, and he laughed at me. Right? I know I've said that about other stuff, right? And so but those moments, it's like, what do you want me to do then? You want me to lie? No, the answer is not necessarily lie. But you don't have to tell the whole truth. Jesus was actually really good at this. And that was answering a question with a question. If somebody's asking you a question that's vulnerable in nature, you can answer that with a question, or you don't have to answer at all. You can stay silent. It's okay. But I guess in my brain, for most of my life, I thought if somebody asked me a question, I kind of feel obligated to answer it, and I feel obligated to answer it honestly, and that is vulnerability, depending on the nature of the question, right? If they're asking me a deep question about myself, and I feel like I should answer it, and I feel like I should be honest, I'm automatically going to be vulnerable with this person. But then, but it's definitely okay for you to say, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't feel like talking about that. I don't feel comfortable talking about that. I don't," but whatever, right? You phrase it however you want. It's okay to not answer. But how can you be okay with being vulnerable? I'm working on that. It takes a while now. Somebody's got to earn my trust. before I'm going to be vulnerable with them, before I'm going to talk about deep topics of the heart with them. Because I've opened up and been burned too many times. And it hurts. So I don't know if you're in that position, if you're feeling like, maybe you're just cold as ice now because you've been burned so many times and you just closed off and you've built up a whole bunch of walls, then maybe I would definitely recommend at least talking to a counselor a few times to try and make some sense of what's going on. Because like Ryan said, there is beauty in that vulnerability. There's intimacy, but it has to be respected and it has to be treated well. There has to be a basis of love. There has to be a basis of acceptance. There has to be a basis of, I love you no matter what. Because if I'm going to be open and vulnerable and you're just then going to decide to not be my friend anymore, well, what good was that? Or even worse, if I'm going to be open and vulnerable and then you're going to go gossip about it to a whole bunch of people and make fun of me behind my back or in front of my face or whatever. Which all of the above. It's hard. And that's why being vulnerable requires that level of trust. So anyway, I don't know. I've gone on for a long time on this. I guess my answer to this is kind of more of a warning. Who, why, what, and make sure you trust them. Right?
Fair enough.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan and he's going to make it all nice. So.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that your warning is due. I think it's important, and I'm gonna kind of go in a opposite direction.
Yeah,
but that
please
doesn't
go in the
mean that
opposite direction.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in the opposite direction, but that doesn't mean I'm discounting or discrediting anything Joe said. I think that Joe is right. Here's the thing: you as a person are infinitely valuable, and to be vulnerable with someone, that someone should have a very deep, profound amount of respect and love for you, for certain, depending on the level of vulnerability, I will say. And yeah. So, anyways, now I'm gonna go off and say some things that sound as if they contradict, but they don't. These all work together. Um, the point of life, the whole point of life, is not to figure out how to avoid pain. And that statement is important because
it's a very
as you
Catholic
go through
statement.
life, yeah, it's a very Catholic statement. Yeah.
We enjoy our suffering.
The point of life isn't trying to figure out how to avoid pain or even necessarily diminish pain. That can be it's a side goal. In fact, it's a goal that people live their whole life seeking, whether it be to being fruitful or not. Some people have made it very fruitful because they've reduced the suffering in the world, which is a very beautiful thing. And some people have lived their lives, basically their whole life, in fear because they know that certain things have consequences which lead to suffering and pain. If you are in a so I would make those two a distinction and ask yourself, is your vulnerability out of a fear of pain? And it's okay if it is. And does that fear stop you from doing something good and important? Because that's a question that should then be like, if you find that answer, it should answer whether or not you should be vulnerable, and it should deal with how you being it should deal with the question, how can I be okay with being vulnerable? If you ask yourself, yeah, I'm afraid of being vulnerable because I'm afraid of the pain associated with it, that's okay. Is it stopping you from doing something good? If your answer is yes, then unfortunately, I'd say that's a very sad answer. And it's like a defeated person. One thing that I like about Joe is while his answer might be yes to the first one, yeah, he's afraid of being vulnerable because he's been hurt so many times. Absolutely has. And that's realistic and okay. But does it stop him from doing things that are good? From the times where he has to be vulnerable in order to do something good? In my experience with Joe, Joe does the good thing and he gets hurt, but he does the good thing. Sometimes he does the good thing by being vulnerable and he doesn't get hurt. In fact, he gets celebrated or he gets to experience being vulnerable and being taken care of in ways that otherwise would never happen,
Mm.
right? And so that is an important question. Is my vulnerability, my fear of vulnerability stopping me from doing something good? And I think by that question, you'll start to become more okay with being vulnerable because vulnerability is required to love. But, and I don't mean just love as in romantic, by the way. I mean to love when it comes to friends. I mean to love when it comes to objects, because you can love objects as in treat them with respect and care. You can love people. You can love God creator. You can love the earth we live on. You can love all sorts of different things. Every one of those cases will require you to be vulnerable in some way or form or another. And if you're trying to achieve a dream or something, you're going to have to be vulnerable to the things necessary to achieve that goal or dream. And so, my point of saying that is if you never become vulnerable, if you never become okay with being vulnerable, a lot of things in your life, a lot of good in your life will be nixed, will be taken
Mm.
from you. And it will be taken from you by fear
Mm-hmm.
or whatever is stopping you. I don't know what's stopping you from being vulnerable. And it might literally just be logic, just like logically speaking, like it doesn't make sense to be vulnerable. Okay. But logically speaking, it also does make sense. So there are times and places, right? And so I would recommend you just ask yourself some questions, and you said, to some degree, you kind of don't know um, who you are, how you act. You say, I'll just reread it. You don't know yourself enough to be authentic. There you go. To be authentically vulnerable, and you don't know how to identify your own feelings. So these are important things. So spending time with yourself, spending time studying yourself is important. When we're born into this world, nobody knows who they are. In this world, we discover who we are, and we also make who we are.
Mm.
And so every action you do, sometimes you'll be like, wow, I can't believe I did that. That's not me. Yeah, but it was you for that second when you did it, right? And so every action that you do is you acting it out, right? But are you the summation of your actions? No, you're also not the summation of your feelings. You're not the summation of your faults, and you're not the summation of your successes. Your successes don't make who you are. In fact, I would say a lot of times it's the fight to obtain the success that kind of makes you who you are, because that spells out whether you're the kind of person to do wrong to achieve something good for yourself, or if you're the kind of person that'll do the right things all the way, even if it's super hard to get that success. All of these things are important and need to be accounted for when you're trying to define yourself, and you can't. And I think part of the problem is you're like, or at least part of the problem I think a lot of people have when it comes to trying to know themselves is that you can't fully know yourself. You just can't. You have to be okay with there being a mystery. And you have to be okay with discovering who you are. And part of that discovery is making those split-second choices of who you're going to be in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone, so if you enter a scenario where someone's in pain and you think maybe I could help this person, but it requires me to be a little vulnerable with them. I can see them in their vulnerability, but it would require me to be vulnerable to help them. Question is, who are you going to be in that moment? Not who are you. It doesn't matter who you are in that moment. The question is, who are you going to be? It doesn't matter how they see you. It doesn't matter how they interpret you. It doesn't matter if you've got a social stigma. You look at yourself and you go, oh no, people see me this way, so therefore I cannot enter into this scenario and be vulnerable with this person because I know that this person is going to see me as the bully or whatever it is. Wrong. Who are you going to be in this moment? Because that's all that really matters. Because when you do those things, that's who you become. And so every time you get afraid of being vulnerable and you walk away from something good, that's who you are. You're a scaredy cat, or you're shy, and that's okay too. Sometimes we're just shy. And there's not like a bad reason why. It's just that it's in your nature to be shy. Who knows what it is that you are being? But the question is more like, because I don't know you, but the question that is important here is, who are you going to be? Set vulnerability and the reason for being okay or not okay with it aside. Who are you going to be, right? That's important. I think those are the questions and those are the scenarios with which you can answer how are you going to be okay with being vulnerable. I have if you go out into the woods,
You see some trees.
yeah, that's so true. Go out into the woods with the intention of feeding an animal some corn. You got a handful of corn, you're going to feed a deer. You see it, you walk up, it runs away, right?
Mhm.
Why? Well, it's part of its nature. And part of being a human is also battling with this nature that we have, this animalistic nature to run away. Why? Because there's a potential for pain. The animal doesn't know like a whole lot. It might even see, oh, it seems to have the intention to feed me this food. But I'm getting the heck out of here because I don't know why. Why would he want to do something good to me? Why would he that doesn't make any sense. I'm getting out of here. This is too sketchy for me. Right? Because maybe you just pull out a pistol and shoot the animal and you take its meat and eat it, right? Like for all animal knows, like you're gonna do that, right? But on the off chance that the animal chooses to be vulnerable, it receives something it otherwise never would have. And it might even make a friend, which is odd, but true. It might even make companions. It might even make or break its life because come a next season, it doesn't have enough food to eat and survive. but because of some random stranger in the woods, it can live. So vulnerability is a battle, just like love is a battle. And it's not easy, and it's not always going to lead to something good. But I will say this. If you're willing to be vulnerable for the sake of good, for the sake of love, then I don't think there's a better way to live. Because in everything I can see in the world, if you're willing to risk suffering, risk the vulnerability to do what is good and loving, it's like always worth it, even though it hurts if you're wrong. Because this world needs a heck of a lot more love.
I would agree with that.
And that doesn't happen without pain. It doesn't happen without conquering these fears that we have. And you know what? Fear rules this world that we're in. That's why the news is so popular and so mainstream and everything, right? So if you want to be okay with love, give your mindset, with vulnerability. If you want to be okay with being vulnerable in the right times in the right places, right? Because that matters, just like Joe was talking about. I would say take on a new perspective of the world and recognize that this world needs more love. It doesn't need more fear. It doesn't need more of you holding back. It needs more of you being your best. Because when we're vulnerable, that's also when we're being our best. But it also means that we're going to receive the most pain if it goes wrong. But it is when we're being our best. If we're being fully vulnerable. Because sometimes we think we're being vulnerable, and we are, but we're not vulnerable enough to say things that defend ourselves or help people correct their behavior. Because that's a whole stage of vulnerability too. Like, if you ever been in a toxic relationship where you're stepping on eggshells with everything, you've stopped being vulnerable in the ways that help the person, but you've continued to be vulnerable in the ways that hurt yourself. Like, I've been there. I know Joe's been there, and that sucks. So you have to be vulnerable to the max to be your best, to do the best for this world. And if you can take on that, what's the word? Image of the world, that perspective of the world. If you can put on those glasses, so to speak, I think then you live a life, even if you die because of it, you live a life that makes this world a better place and encourages people to be better and changes the world. Because, I mean, honestly, that's what we need in this world. And I don't mean we need more vulnerability for the sake of vulnerability. We need more love. That requires some vulnerability. Yeah, you have a legacy. You're a legend. You're a saint. You're whatever you want to call that. So I hope that lens, that view, that perspective can enter your heart and shape you, but not for the sake of vulnerability. Because vulnerability is just, like, that's a great thing, sure. But, like, for the sake of love, for the sake of this human condition that we have, where we have to battle these things interiorly and then exteriorly with each other and so on. It's like, it's a war. But It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful war in the sense that there's so much good to be had. The world isn't just all bad, right? There's so much good to be had. There's so much. But we have to be vulnerable to create those good things. Like when you create a piece of art, the last topic, right? That person's vulnerable. That person's vulnerable, like literally in their comment, like that person messed
Mm-hmm.
with their brain because they
Mm-hmm.
said, like, oh, why do you have the inspiration now? It's like, you're offended by that. That means you were vulnerable to that person. But you have to be, in order to put the beauty into the world in the first place. There's a certain sense of vulnerability that must take place. And the more you experience that and are harmed, the more loving you can possibly be, because you can take that in strides and recognize like, hey, that's not going to stop me and nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to be good. And the more you're willing to take on, and the more you can take on, the more you can be offended before it stops you, the more you can just endure. And love is sometimes a battle of endurance. So anyways, my point is, this world needs more good. And to be an inventor, to create things, to make suggestions, to critique people in loving ways, to help the people who are in sorrow, to go to the poor and feed them, to have have countenance with the rich to help them, like literally like just be better people or share their goods, whatever your agenda is, it's going to require a certain amount of vulnerability, and all of these things are good. And so I'm going to paint the picture that way for you, so that you're going to be okay with vulnerability for the sake of love, for the sake of
Mm-hmm.
the good of humanity. And that's what I got. I know that was long-winded. I know I said it many times, many ways, but I think it's something that needs to be said.
I agree. I agree. Your perspective was needed. And here's the book that I was talking about earlier.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You want to learn about love. You want to learn about actual love. You want to learn about what it is, the vulnerability involved with it, all that kind of stuff. I just looked it up. It's like $12 on Amazon. So it's pretty inexpensive. But The Art of Loving by Eric Fromm. Like I said, I'm reading it again, and this is I love what Ryan was getting at, because he's so right that what the world needs is love, and in a lot of ways that requires vulnerability. I will
Unfortunately,
say,
but
like,
fortunately as well.
yep, and love brings with it pain. And one of the newest things in my journey, those of you who know me and have known, the journey I've been over the last few years, you're gonna probably freak out when you hear me say this, but I'm in a somewhat spiritual journey, and one, learning to understand self-love.
Hmm.
Because with a strong enough self-love and a strong enough connection and bond with God, or our creator, or the being, the intelligence that put all this into place, right? That gave us life. To be in connection with that, and to learn my value in relation to that.
Hmm.
And to learn how to love who I am and who I was made to be. When you start with that foundation, it's easier to be vulnerable. When self-love gets robbed from you, being vulnerable is really scary.
Hmm. That's a really interesting way to say it.
Really, really
Yeah.
scary. And that's why my word of caution at the beginning still stands. While Ryan says, yes, it's good to be vulnerable, I wholeheartedly agree. It's good to be vulnerable. We need more vulnerability. We need more love. We need more compassion.
Hmm.
We need more patience. We need more good. in the world. Man, oh man.
Certainly do. And there's an infinite amount of it that could be had.
There absolutely
people would step
is.
out.
I'll tell you what, though. There are people that will abuse you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They are out there. So, foundationally speaking, having a strong foundation of self-love and self-assertiveness and self-understanding, like what you're talking about here in your statement, you want to learn how to identify your own feelings. You want to be more sure of yourself. All that stuff is great, and it's a great foundation for vulnerability, because when you're more sure of yourself and you love who you are, abuse isn't as detrimental to you.
Right, because it's an outside thing. It has nothing. It's like it's not you.
Right. You
It's
can
just something that's
handle it a
happening
little
to you.
bit better.
Yeah.
Right? Abuse
way
in
better.
the closest relationships is so detrimental to a heart, and it can mess you up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't say, so yes, I say we need more vulnerability, but I don't say just go willy-nilly be vulnerable with everybody. Until you know and love yourself to the point where you're rock solid, and any abuse somebody flings your way, you can just look at them and be like, you know what? You can picture like the deer Ryan was talking about, the deer that, you hold the corn out and they run away, or maybe they like, fling some poop at you on the way out. That'd probably be a monkey, not a deer.
Man, that deer walks. That deer swings real funny through trees.
Like, but when you know that, then it's when you know that in your heart, when you understand self-love to that level that I'm pursuing at this point, it's like, okay, then, and I'm already starting to see incrementally, like, okay, so when somebody acts a certain way that used to really hurt me, like I can handle that and look at them and I can still look at them with love and be like, I understand. They are in pain. They're lashing out in hurtful ways because they themselves are hurting. And I can be compassionate for them, right? So it does take a solid foundation to open yourself up to be vulnerable like that. So anyway, that's it.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff in the comments too. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to go read them all, but I would recommend you read them. I recommend you think about them, consider them, because seems to me that you're at the beginning of a journey that is awesome. Because you're awesome, and you're going to find that out.
And I'm putting heart emojis in the chat because it's fun.
Yeah.
You ever figure that? I like in the party ones and the thing and the do floppies. I love
Thanks,
these.
Mom. You're awesome too. You're excellent. Yeah. Thank you guys so much, all of you, for joining us this week, or this day, for this week of the weeks that you joined us. Well, okay, anyways, Don't Worry Wednesday. Thank you for joining us for Don't Worry Wednesday, even if it's Thursday.
Yeah.
And I hope that you guys found the content thought-provoking and helpful, if nothing else, at least entertaining. And we hope to see you also next week if you're available.
Yeah. Come
you
on
guys
back.
are awesome. We really appreciate you, and we love all the comments in the chat, and they are very helpful. So you guys are amazing, and we love you again.
Love you guys. You're awesome. Come back next week. Come back next week for another awesome time with us.
That's right. Cool. All right. Well, you guys, we'll see you next week, and hope you have an awesome rest of your life.
Yeah, which
whole thing.
hopefully it'll last longer than till
Yeah,
next
and hopefully
week.
we'll see you several times throughout that experience.
Right, exactly. That yeah.
Yeah. With the whole thing, we want it to be awesome for you guys. So just good or bad, we just want it to be awesome. It's gonna be great. Yeah.
Mhm. All right.
Thanks, guys. Bye
Bye, guys.
bye.